Hello everyone and welcome back to Astrology with Lauren. I'm Lauren. In this video, we're going to be talking about the forecast for March 2023. This is a heavy month, you guys. We have a lot going on this month. If you've been tapped into the astro weather at all, you know that we've got several planets changing signs, lots of heavy full moons, new moons, just lots of energy that's moving. So I'm going to cover the most important transits in my mind in this video without making it hours long, because I think I could probably talk about the astrology of March for forever. But I want to let you guys know that I'm also going to be offering transit reports for the month of March. I don't do this every month. It's something that I do periodically if the month feels extra heavy. And I feel like you guys might benefit from having a report that's really individualized to you that covers the transits of the month specific to your chart, what houses the transits are taking place in, and what you can expect, how you can best work with the energy. So if that's something that you want to work with, if you want to purchase one of those, I will put the link in the description and feel free to do so. I think they're really helpful. Like I said, we've got a lot of energy shifting this month. So before we dive into that, I do want to talk about my transit journal. Speaking of transits, the spring transit journal, you can kind of see it here, is available now, starts on March 21st, and this is a journal, an interactive journal. So first, it starts out with 25 pages of you really working with your chart, breaking down the planets, their signs, their houses, the aspects they're making, and what that says about you, really understanding your chart if that's something that you haven't done before. There's also keywords for all of the signs, planets, houses, to give you a rough idea, a start into understanding those planets and their placements. And then the bulk of the journal is, sorry, someone's got a lot of energy today. You might see her or hear her. The bulk of the journal is walking you through the planetary movements that take place over the next 3 months until summer. The thing that I think that's really cool about this journal that's different than the winter journal, if you purchased that, is this journal every week will start out with where the planets are. So every week you'll get a visual of how the planets have moved over the last week. So that really gives you an interactive idea of how planets are moving, how they're moving through your chart. And I think that it might be backwards, but I'm going to give you guys a little visual so you can kind of see. So over here, like I said, it's backwards. This just details the transits that are taking place that week, wherever the sun moves, any planets shifting signs, any new moons, full moons, eclipses, so on and so forth. And this is where it starts out the week. So this is where the planets are at the beginning of that week. And then the rest of the week, it's just like a journal. So you would journal as you would normally, taking into consideration, where is the moon today? Where is the sun today? How is Jupiter interacting with my moon? So on and so forth. So it really gives you an interactive way to acknowledge the way the planets are moving and how you feel under certain transits. One of my favorite stories, and then we'll jump into March, is when I started tracking transits years ago, I started noticing that the week of the full moon, I would get terrible headaches, like the whole week. And there are a couple of full moons that it doesn't happen, but I would say 8 out of 12 full moons a year, I get migraines the entire week of the full moon. So now that I know that, I can prepare myself. Oh, there's a full moon that week. I don't think I want to work 50 hours that week. I don't want to plan a bunch of social events, social outings. Instead, I want to plan to be at home in my bed, relaxing. So there's so much value in paying attention to your transits. And having said that, let's move into the transits of March. So like I said, this is a heavy month. There's a lot going on, but we're going to talk about some of the more important transits in my mind. So we're going to talk about 3 of the several planets that are changing sign. We'll talk about Saturn, Pluto, and Mars. I'm looking at my notes. And then we're also going to talk about the Virgo full moon and the Aries new moon. So Starting out, our first transit that we're going to talk about, of course, they decide now is the time that they'd like to play. Everybody was sleeping before I started this. Hi, could you lay down? Thank you so much. Could you lay down? Okay, March 7th is a big day. So we have a full moon that starts out, it's at Virgo. It's in Virgo, full moon, 16 degrees Virgo at 7:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So translate that to whichever time zone you're in, but that's where it's happening, Eastern Time. And then like less than an hour later, we have Saturn moving into Pisces. So if you're familiar with full moons, you know that they happen when the sun and the moon are in opposing signs. So we've got the moon in Virgo at 16 degrees. We've got the sun in Pisces at 16 degrees and Saturn moving into Pisces. So it is a big shift for us. Let's talk a little bit about Saturn. I'm going to bounce back and forth between these two transits because they're kind of enmeshed together. But Saturn has been in Saturn has been in Aquarius now for a few years, since the end of 2020. So that story, those lessons and themes that have come up for us during Saturn in Aquarius are ending. If you have Saturn in Aquarius, your Saturn return is ending. If you have Saturn in Pisces, your Saturn return is starting. So if you're curious, I do have a video on returns. If you don't know what that means, go check that out. I can link that too down below. But we are ending that chapter. All of those themes of Saturn and Aquarius, all of the lessons that we've learned over the last 2+ years are really starting to come to a close. And at the same time, we have this full moon in Virgo, and full moons are about releasing. It's when the energy and the light of the moon is at its peak, and it is a time for us to be letting go. So given that we have this Saturn transiting, moving into Pisces, at the same time that we have this, like within an hour, less than an hour of this potent full moon, it is such a wonderful time to release, to let go, acknowledge the lessons and the things that you've been working on, and find a way to release them. That could be through journaling, taking a bath, laughing, crying, exercising, somehow moving the energy, right? And it doesn't actually have to be actual movement. It could be that you sit in meditation for an hour, actively letting things go, but finding a way to release that storyline, release those Saturn and Aquarius themes, because it's going to be really important that you release on March 7th, because come March 21st, I'm going to jump a little bit to the Aries new moon that takes place in March. That is such a potent time for manifesting, that you want to have released everything that there is to release during the full moon. Let it go, find a way to get rid of it. And when you're working with moons, just aside if this is new or full, I would say try and work with the energy 2 days before and 2 days after. So that 4-day period. So for example, for the Virgo full moon, you could work with it between March 5th and March 9th. For the Aries new moon, you could work with it March 19th to March 23rd. But of course, the energy is most potent like the day and time of, but no pressure if like, you know, you're driving to work during that time or something. So the Aries new moon is at 0 degrees Aries. If you guys are familiar with the Aries point at all, it is the exact point that the zodiac starts. So it is such a potent spot, and it's ripe with opportunity. And it's the first new moon of the zodiac. It's the, astrological new year. It's the first new moon in, words are failing me here, in the zodiac year. So that Pisces full moon, Virgo full moon is ending that astrological year. The Aries new moon is starting it. So both of those energies are really important. The Aries new moon is probably my favorite transit of the month, about everything that we have going on in March, because again, it's such a wonderful opportunity for us to really get clear on what we want. New moons are for manifesting. Like I said, full moons are for releasing. New moons are for manifesting. So because this is an opportunity for manifesting, and it also exists on Aries, the Aries point, such a potent opportunity. I want to also mention that the next aspect that the moon will make, so the next planet in line as the moon moves from 0 degrees Aries on, is to Mercury at 5 degrees Aries. And so there's a nature to this new moon of really communicating, whether it's written just to yourself or verbally just to yourself or to the people around you, your community. Hey, these are my intentions. This is what I want. And with manifesting, I like to write things out as if I already have that. So say you want to manifest more money. You could pick a number and say, I have $10,000 in my bank account, or I make an extra $2,000 a month for savings, whatever it is. But you say it as if you already have it. And those can be like I am statements as well. Like I am happy, I am fulfilled, I am financially stable, whatever it is. But I find being more specific is helpful. And that doesn't mean you have to be like super detail oriented. But saying like I am happy can mean a lot of things. So for me, what is happiness? How do I achieve happiness, if that makes sense? So I don't know if I said the times. I'm going to go back and say the times. So the Virgo full moon is at 7:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Aries new moon is 1:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just so you know when exactly they're happening. Okay, let's move on to Pluto and Aquarius. There has been so much dialogue about Pluto and Aquarius. Some I think is really helpful. Some I don't find very helpful. Pluto is the planet of transformation. So naturally, it moving from Capricorn to Aquarius is going to be impactful for us because it's been in Capricorn since 2008. But I want you guys to also consider that Pluto moves so slow. It's going to be in Aquarius until like 2044, I believe, like 20 plus years. So we're not going to see this like monumental shift this month. We're not going to wake up the day that Pluto is in Aquarius and the world is just going to have made this massive change. I mean, maybe, but I don't believe that that's how Pluto works, and that's not how Pluto has worked in the past. It takes us time to experience Pluto in a sign and then start to process the things that are happening. I mean, Pluto moves so slow. We haven't experienced Pluto in Aquarius in 50 years. Jesus fucking. They are rowdy this morning, you guys. So I don't want to harp too much on Pluto and Aquarius because I can't say confidently what's going to happen. It's why none of us have experienced Pluto and Aquarius in our lifetimes. And I could look back to what was happening 250 years ago, but so much has changed culturally and societally that I don't know that it's super relevant. Anyway, like I said, I absolutely could dive into it if I wanted to and spend hours speculating. People have. But I really think that all in all, we're not going to see this super monumental shift immediately. Pluto doesn't even stay in Aquarius until November 24th. So it's going to retrograde back and forth back into Aquarius over the next year and a half. So we're not fully done with Capricorn. I feel like that's falling. So that's my 2 cents. If you want more information on Pluto in Aquarius, Adam Ellenboss, at Nightlight Astrology has a really good podcast on Pluto and Aquarius. And he talks about some of the things that are kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say dramatic, over embellished maybe, about Pluto moving into Aquarius. And I'll link his podcast in the show notes too, if you guys want to check that out. And if you don't already follow his podcast, absolutely do so. It's a really good podcast. Anyway, I think he has a YouTube channel too, but I always listen to the podcast. Anyway, that's March 23rd. Pluto moves into Aquarius. Like I said, it stays at 0 Aquarius for a couple months and then retrogrades back into Capricorn in a couple months. So we're only getting this tiny little taste of Pluto in Aquarius. So, last transit of the month that I want to talk about, also a big one. Mars is moving into Cancer on March 25th. And Mars has been in, I need a sip of water. Also, you guys watching that little tail? That means he's about to pounce. Mars has been in Cancer since August 21st. It's a long time for Mars to be in a sign. Mars moved into Gemini. I think I said Mars has been in Cancer since August 21st. I meant Gemini. Mars has been in Gemini since August 21st. A long time for Mars to be in a sign. And Mars went retrograde for a couple months in Gemini. So we've had this like really long, how many months is that? 7 months. We've had this 7-month-long period of Mars and Gemini where we've really been processing a certain part of our lives. Look to where you have Mars in your chart. Look what house that is. Look to what, oh my God. I got distracted with something and now I can't talk. Look to where you have Gemini in your chart. What house is that? Are there any planets there? And this has been like a 7-month-long period of processing a certain, usually with a Mars retrograde, there's something that we get really excited about around the beginning of the retrograde. So like September, October-ish, we feel really energized. We want to achieve in this certain area of our life, but we hit a rut. And then we have 2, 3, 4 months-ish of really want this thing, but I have all of these obstacles that are standing in my way. Either I don't have enough energy to go and achieve that thing, or I'm sorry guys. I don't know if you can hear them. There's 3 of them, by the way. Either you don't have enough energy to achieve that thing, or there are external obstacles standing in your way of actually going out and getting that thing. But by the end of the retrograde, by the end of the time that the planet clears its retrograde shadow, you have processed, oh, I understand now why I needed to slow down, why I really needed to take this thing, this project, and learn something new, or do some more research before I actually move forward. So with Mars moving into Cancer, we're going from this highly logical Mercury-ruled sign to a very empathetic, very intuitive, nonverbal knowing. It's going to feel like a major shift for us. We've been dealing with these Gemini energies now for several months. So now we're shifting into this. Mars in Cancer is like a mama bear. It's gonna do what it needs to do to protect its cubs. So like I said, look to the house that you have Gemini in, look to the house that you have Cancer in, and you'll notice that your priorities start to shift. So say, for example, you have Gemini in the 7th house, and Mars, oh my God, Gemini is in the 7th house, Cancer is in the 8th house. So you've spent the last 7 months on these relationship themes, whether it's an intimate relationship or a business partner, something like that. There have been these lessons and these things that you've been really investing your energy in terms of relationships. And then there's going to be a shift into this, let's turn inward. We've focused on these relationships now for 7 months. It's time for me to focus on myself. What do I want? What do I need? What's been going on for me internally? And a shift into inner transformation, starting to dig more deeply into who you are, what you need, and processing those thoughts, feelings, emotions, so on and so forth. So that's just an example. That's not going to be the truth for everyone, but just so you get the idea, that planet of action, that planet of aggression, of intensity is moving from Gemini to Cancer, and it's going to be a notable shift for us, especially if you are ruled by Mars. So if you have a Scorpio or Aries rising, or you have a lot of Scorpio or Aries placements, that'll be a really big shift for you guys. So that is the month of March. Lots going on. Like I said, if you guys are interested in a transit report, I will link them below. There's a lot of kind of more subtle transits that I didn't talk about because I didn't want to go on for hours. But those are the big shifts for March. We're doing a lot of releasing. We are letting go of old signs. We're letting go of that Gemini. We're letting go of that Capricorn. And we are letting go of that Aquarius, kind of, because Pluto does move into Aquarius. So we're not done with Aquarius yet. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that more in depth for you, if you heard about signs or degrees that are really relevant for you, let me know. I will link those in the description, and check out the transit journal. I will also link that. It's such a wonderful journal, and it gives you the opportunity to take all of these things that I just talked about, all of these transits that I just talked about would be present in the journal. And it just gives you the opportunity to feel a little bit more empowered in terms of understanding transits and getting a visual, seeing like, okay, where is that Virgo full moon going to take place for me? I have a page here that has like a huge my chart. So you can write out your chart, where all your planets are at, what degrees they're at, what aspects they're making. And then you can say, oh, this Virgo full moon at 16 degrees of Virgo is taking place in my 7th house. It is conjunct my Saturn. It is, so on and so forth. You get the idea. But I will link both of those things in the description. And as always, I hope you guys have a good month. Please like, subscribe, share, do your thing. I really appreciate your support here. And thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to talk about astrology. It's my favorite thing to do. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And I will see you guys later on this week for the video on the moon. So